in the Israelites' history where Gideon is actually going to be the fifth judge. If you read Judges, Gideon is the fifth judge of Israel. And we're going to be talking about a time, if you know anything about the Israelites, I love studying about the Israelites because, again, they reflect, or we reflect, they're us. They're us. When times are going great and we're praising God, but then we seem to forget what He's done for us. And unfortunately, so many times we kind of take off and go the other way. So we're talking about a time where they're worshiping Baal, they're worshiping false idols. Gideon is a nobody, which we'll get into here in just a little bit. But they have been overran. The Israelites have been overran by the Midianites. They have been, every time the harvest comes up, the Israelites would have to run out, grab what they could real quick, and go hide the harvest, hide their cattle, hide themselves in caves, in wine presses, and we'll get into that in just a second, because the Midianites and Amorites, but the Midianites, they called them locusts, because there was so many of them, and they would, as soon as the harvest would come, they would just swarm the country and destroy, get this, destroy the harvest, destroy the cattle, destroy the sheep, because they wanted to keep them beat down so they never rose up again, because they would rise up and then they would get beaten down, rise up. So this was what the Midianites would do. And so we're going to be in Judges 6. In Judges 6, we find, and again, we're going to read it here in a second, but we find Gideon hiding. Actually, I'm just going to read it. We'll go with this, okay? Judges 6, starting with verse 11. And I'm going to skip around, so if you're reading and you're like, wait, he left out that. I love reading the Bible, and I love, my Bible, you'll see where I highlight things and I don't highlight things because that wasn't important to me. So, so I'm going to skip around. So the first part of 11 says, "Now the angel of the Lord came and sat at Oprah." And that wasn't the TV show host. It was a place. And we're going to skip down to the last part of the verse, actually. "While Gideon was beating out the wheat in a wine press to hide from the Midianites." Now, again, I'm going to stop. You've got to see this. A wine press was in the ground, under the ground. It was buried, okay? All that was open above the ground was a hole big enough usually that a person could fit in. A wine press. So Gideon is hiding in this wine press with his wheat, not where it should be, because he is a coward. All the Israelites are hiding. He's down there beating the wheat down there, hiding because he is afraid that the Midianites could show up at any minute, destroy the wheat, and kill him. So he's down there hiding. So you got to picture this. I love this. This is awesome. So he's down there hiding, and I can just see him. Again, I love the Bible. You got to read the Bible like you're watching a movie. Get into it. He's down there hiding, and I can just see him down there doing what he's doing. And every time he heard something up top, he'd be like, scared to death. Scared to death. So it says he's down there, he's hiding, and it says, "The angel of the Lord appeared to him and said, 'The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor.'" What? He is hiding. "The Lord is with you, you courageous man." You know Gideon's got to look around and go, "You talking to me? Seriously?" I just love this. It said, "The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor." And Gideon said to him, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us? An angel appeared to him, and the first thing he does is questioning. Not just questioning, but question God. The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor. Well, then, where's he at? That's what he's saying. Where is he at? And Gideon says, if the Lord is with us, then why has all this happened to us? And where are all of his wondrous deeds that we have heard from our forefathers about? Where's he at? And where's all these miracles that we've heard about? Where is God? If God's here, why don't we see these miracles? So he's arguing with an angel, which I think that is amazing. And we're going to skip down to 14. And the Lord turned to him. The angel turned to him and said, go in this might of yours. I love that. Go in this might of yours and save Israel from the Midianites. Go with this strength that you have, you mighty man of valor, and save your people. Where's he at? Hiding. First thing he does is argue with the Lord. But here's the cool thing. That does show a little bit of his character, doesn't it? He wasn't afraid to argue with God. It shows a little bit of his character. Just a little bit. I love this. The first thing, I'm going to back up here a little bit. 14 again. It says, go, save your people. And he said to him, this is Gideon, how can I save Israel? Behold, my clan is the weakest of everybody. And I am the least in my family. I'm the youngest. Wait a minute. You telling me save the people? My family are cowards, and I'm the biggest coward. I am hiding. So here's, I love this. I wrote this down. I love this. So he questions God's presence. He questions God's performance. And he questions God's perception on the future. So he questions God 3 times there. Where's he at? If he is here, where's the miracles? And you're telling me I can do something great? I don't think you know what you're talking about. I am the least of the least. It's kind of funny if you look through a bunch of different men and women of great faith in the Bible, how many were the least? How many were reluctant? How many argued with God? I mean, Moses and David and Joseph. I love it. Okay, we're going to skip down to about 18 here. Just bear with me for a second. We'll go down to about, So, about 18 says, please do not depart from here, talking to the messenger. Please do not depart from here until I come back. I'll have something for you, a present for you. So, he's testing the angel now. He's testing the angel. He goes, okay, if you are who you say you are, just stay right here. I'm going to go in the house. I'm going to cook something. I want you to eat it with me, which really in my mind is not much of a test, but it's Gideon testing the angel. He's testing the angel. I love this because if you jump down to 20, when he gets back, this is amazing. He goes and he gets some unleavened bread and he gets some meat and he gets some broth. And when he comes back, the angel says in 20, he says, take your meat, put it on that rock. Take your bread, put it on the meat. Now take your broth and pour it all over it. And then the angel standing there, Gideon's got to be like, what? And so he does all that, pours it all over it. And then the angel takes the staff that's in his hand, touches the meat. The rock consumes it with fire. He creates instantly a sacrifice to God. You know, Gideon's got to be like, I think you are who you say you are. I mean, that's, here, let's just, Elijah did that too, right? Let's just pour broth all over this, and then you're going to consume it with fire? And he says, go. Save your people. Save your people. I think that would be enough for me right there. And the Bible says in 20 that at that moment the angel or the messenger disappeared. So, Gideon's in a wine press. He turns around. Boom, an angel standing there. A person standing there. A man standing there. Tells him, you are mighty. Argues with him. Questions God. He says, if you are who you say you are, I'm going to go cook us something, come back and eat with you. This is going to be my test. Which, how many of us has asked God and put God through stupid, foolish tests? I'm sitting there thinking, that's a stupid test. I have done some of the stupidest things. God, if you will do this, I will seriously do this. If you will let this happen, I will seriously let... We all have put God through some stupid, foolish tests. The amazing thing here is the angel don't just look at him and go, what? No, he says, okay, I'll stay here for a minute. When he comes back, he says, I want you to eat with me. No, set it down there. Turns it into fire. The rock catches fire. I assume it was the rock that he was beating the wheat with. Consumes the meat, the bread, and then the man disappears. That'd be enough for me, right? Whatever you want me to do, God, I'm there. Is it wrong to test God? Was Gideon wrong to question, where's God at? Why are we having to go through this? Was Gideon wrong to question the presence, the miracles? Was Gideon wrong to question and test the Spirit, the messenger? Absolutely not. 1 John 4:1. It says, test every spirit. You know, guys, Satan can appear as an angel of light. Test every spirit. Test everything a pastor says. Test everything a teacher says. Test everything your coworker says. Test it. Make sure it's right. Don't just, unfortunately, we are so lazy. If we hear it on TV, we hear it from up here, and I'm not saying anybody's wrong or anybody's right, but what I am saying is, it is your responsibility to not just hear, well, you know, the Bible, I heard all my life that money was the root of all evil. Some of you are shaking your head no, because you've tested that. It's the love of money that is the root of all. But I heard all my life, money's the root of all evil. So I was like, that's evil stuff. Give it to me. You shouldn't have that. Hey, somebody's got to bear that burden. So, but no. We hear verses all the time that somebody misquotes, and we take it as gospel. Man, open this up, guys. I don't care if it's on a Bible. I don't care if it's on your phone. Or say my phone. Hello? That's Marlo's phone. I don't care. Read the Bible. So, here's the cool thing about God. God never gives us something huge to start out with. He doesn't start us out with, he told him, he said, you're going to go save your people. But then he starts him out with baby steps. Remember I said just a minute ago that this was a time where everybody was worshiping Baal and a lot of false idols out there. So God says, okay, Gideon, here's what I want you to do. And you find this actually in, I'm not going to read it, but we're still in 6, about 25, verse 25. He says, here's what I want you to do. He says, I want you to go and knock down that idol of Baal, to Baal, and build an altar for me. Gideon is now a man of valor. Gideon is now a mighty, mighty warrior. So he gets 10 servants, sneaks out there at night when nobody can see him because he's scared of what the people will do. Knocks down the altar or the false idol and builds an altar for God in the middle of the night so nobody can see him. And of course, next morning, the men wake up, the women wake up, their idol's gone, they're mad because he didn't even have the courage to do it in the daylight, but they find out that Gideon did it, and they're going to go kill him. They kill him and he died. No, that's not what happened. They're going to go kill him. You're like, see, you should test everything I say. Make sure he didn't die. He didn't die because his dad walks out of his house and says, wait, we're going to kill him because he knocked down the false idol or the idol to Baal. We're going to kill him. And what's his dad say? He says, if Baal is so mighty, you let Baal kill him. I mean, he's going to die, right? Baal is a god. He's a god. He'll kill him. So they went, okay. So they go pray to Baal, and Gideon don't die. He doesn't die. So Gideon, you got to see Gideon. Okay, so this angels came to him. Boom, all this has happened, and he goes and he does what God tells him to do. This crowd's coming. They're going to kill him. But then his dad steps out there and says one thing, and they're like, okay, Baal will take care of him. Well, he doesn't die. Gideon's feeling pretty good right now. Well, the second thing God told him to do, again, you're going to find this in also 6, in about 36, is he tells him to go call out and build an army. Why? Because you're going to save the Israelites. So he makes this huge call. About 36,000 men show up. His neighbors show up. 36,000 soldiers show up to battle. So, again, this is so us, guys. Boom, consuming. Boom, he doesn't die. You would think that was, and then he makes his call. Hey, who wants to fight with me? 36,000 people show up. That's pretty good. That's pretty big. But not for Gideon. Because Gideon runs and says, God, are you sure this is what you want me to do? I mean, is this really you? So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this sheepskin and this fleece, and I'm going to set it outside my tent. And when I wake up in the morning, I want it to be soaked. I want the dew to soak it to where I can wring it out. But I want the ground all around it to be completely dry. See if you can do that, God. He wakes up next morning. And again, this is, like I said, you're going to find this in about 36, 37, 30. He wakes up next morning. Guess what? The sheepskin is completely soaked. The word tells us that he wrung water out of it, a bowl full of water out of it. The ground is completely dry. Now, here's where we fall into the category, I really think. I think this is where Gideon really represents us. Because I know that you and I, after seeing all of that, and I know that you and I would go, God, you are mighty and holy. I'm gonna go save the Israelites. It's not at all what Gideon did. He says, okay, God, that's good. But I'm really not sure yet. Okay, now tonight when I go to sleep, I'm going to put the fleece out there. Can you make the ground soaked from the dew? But nothing on the fleece. So you think God's up there going, oh, how many times do I got to show this boy? No, God does exactly what he asked him to do. Have y'all ever been in a situation like that? I know I seriously have. I have asked God for something, to show me something, and he showed me the very next day, and I mean, it was as blatant and as blunt, and I remember seeing it and thinking, that was good, God, but I'm going to flip this fleece. And I thought that in my mind. I'm going to play a Gideon on you. Do it again. Please, God. We've all been there. I'm not sure, God. Do it again. And that's exactly what he does. He does it again. Woke up next morning. The ground is wet. The fleece is dry. And Gideon says, okay, I believe you, God. Calls the people together, 32,000 of them. And God says to him, Gideon, that's too many. Too many? We're going to fight a war. 32,000. You know how many Midianite military soldiers they had? About 135,000 is what they estimate. So Gideon's thinking 32,000 against 135,000. The odds aren't real good. You know, when you walk into school or when you walk into work, you might be the only Christian. There's only one or two of you. You're thinking, wow, I work with 300 people. I work with 200 people. I work with 10 people in my office. I go to school and I sit and there's 1,000 people in my school. There's 2,000 people in my school. The odds of me telling anybody about Christ, that's low odds. Try 32,000 against 135,000. And then God telling you that's too many. So he says, Gideon, I want you to walk out there and I want you to say, okay, any soldier, any fighting, rough, tough man that is afraid and want to go crying back to mama, go ahead and go. Go for it. And what was left was 10,000 men out of 32,000. They went back home. So now Gideon's standing there in charge of 10,000 instead of 32,000 against 135,000, and God goes, still too many. Gideon's like, what? God says, no, I want the Israelites. I want your enemies. I want everybody to know that it's not Gideon. It's not the soldiers. It's God that defeated this army. So he says, okay, I want you to take everybody down to the water, and all the soldiers that scoop up the water and lick it out like a dog. And I love this scene because you got to see this. For years I thought, why do you have him do that? But see, they scoop the water and it would. And I'll do that. Okay? Don't laugh at me. That's what they did. All those soldiers that lap it like a dog, keep them. But all the soldiers that get down on their hands and knees and just suck it up, here's the reason they did that. Get this, I love this. I didn't understand why. Because all the soldiers that were doing this never took their eyes off the fields watching for their enemies. All the soldiers that stuck their head down to the water became vulnerable. Is that neat? It's not neat when only 300 soldiers, only 300 lapped it up like a dog. Gideon's like, what are you doing? 300. There's only 300 left. God says, you're going to defeat your enemy. So it was Gideon and 300 men against an army of 135,000 plus. But Gideon, he didn't doubt God anymore. All these signs and miracles. So he gets up there, and they're camped out, and they're going to go fight this battle the next day. And Gideon stands up and says, God, I know that me with you, I am confident. That's not at all what Gideon did. Remember, Gideon's us. Gideon said, God, I'm scared to death. There's only 300 of us. And there's 135,000 of them. What are you doing, God? And I love God's response. He said, if you're still scared and you still doubt me. I mean, after all I've done, how many of us are there? Look back in your life and look what God has done in your life. Look what God has done with your kids, your grandkids. Look what God has done, medical miracles. Look what God has done. Just stop and think how many things God has done in your life, and we still doubt Him. With little things. Witness to that person. Tell them about me. Invite them to church. Oh, no. They're going to call me a name like, they're going to think I'm like one of them holy roller people or something. Little things. So God says, all right, Gideon. He said, if you're still scared, go down there, sneak down there to the enemy's camp, and just listen to what you hear. Just listen. Gideon went, nope, God, I trust you. No, he didn't. He sneaks down with one other person, one of his servants. He sneaks down to the camp. They sneak up, and there's these two men, coincidentally, right? I don't believe in coincidence. There's these two men. This one man's talking about a dream he had about food and all sorts of stuff. And the other man's interpreting the dream. The other man says, your dream, it means that Gideon and his mighty army, because they don't know that Gideon's only got 300, Gideon and his mighty army is going to come in and crush us tomorrow. Gideon gets up with his chest all bowed out, and they go back to camp. Full of, yes, God has struck fear in their hearts because these people were scared of me. They're scared of God. And so then the cool thing about Gideon, what he does now is he gathers all 300 men and he splits them up into 3 different teams. And he goes, again, I told you this is going to be a history lesson. 3 different groups. And he says, okay, you're going to go over this way. And you're going to go this way. And we're going to come right here in the middle. And whatever I do, you guys watch me from afar. And whatever I do, you guys do it too. Here's your weapons. A sword, a spear, a shield. Absolutely not. Gideon gives them a torch, a clay jar, and a horn. Nowhere does it say that they had a spear even on them, a knife even on them. They are going into battle with 135,000 soldiers with a torch, a jar, a jug, a clay jar, and a horn. And Gideon tells them, do what I do. And then all at once, blow your horns when I blow my horn. And then scream, for God and for Gideon. I would say you're an idiot. And I think most of you would too. But wait, God told us to do this. Really? God told you to go into battle and didn't even give you a knife or a spear? That's exactly what Gideon does. It's amazing. In Judges 7, Gideon, he runs down with 300 men. He has 100 with him, 200 flanking him. And he says, I want you to crash the jars, smash them, blow the horns, scream for God and for Gideon. And if you've never read this, this is one of the most amazing stories in the Bible. I love these odd stories. 300 men against 135,000. Says that they blew the horns. They crashed the jars. 300 horns. The men came out dazed. I assume this was still night. They were dazed, pulling their swords, and the 135,000 soldiers fought against themselves, thinking it was the enemy. Gideon and his men never lifted a hand but to blow the horns. They fought and killed themselves. The cowards that ran, again, God is so awesome. The cowards that ran, the wounded that ran, guess where they ran to? Back to the 30,000 soldiers that went back home. They ran into the main part of Gideon's army where they were killed and taken into custody. Wow. 135,000 because Gideon did what God told him to do by faith. going into impossible odds. When everybody's telling him, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, he's even telling himself. They fought against themselves. I think it's amazing. It's so amazing that Gideon makes it into the hall of faith. Hebrews 11. It says, Gideon, by faith, became a mighty man of war. Because then what happened was Gideon led his warriors, and they killed the other enemies. And then when he came back home, they said, Gideon, you are the best. Be our king. Be our king, Gideon. And Gideon went, no. The true king of Israel is God, the Lord. Refused to be the king. Now here's the amazing thing about Gideon's life. The amazing thing about Gideon's life is he lived for 40 more years, had 70 sons, in peace. Every one of his enemies, because they had heard what Gideon had done, was scared to attack them. The rest of Gideon's days, he lived in peace. You know something, guys? Here's the cool thing about God. Where everybody else saw a coward, where everybody else saw somebody that was the lowliest of lowlies, hiding in a wine press, God saw a mighty man of faith. God saw someone that he knew could be victorious. So I want everybody to look at me for a second. Remember what he said to the messenger? He said, wait, not me. My family is the lowliest, and I'm the lowliest of my family. So I want you to be real with me for a second, just in your own mind. What do you see when you look in the mirror? A mighty man, a mighty woman of valor. You see a mighty warrior. You see a great person of tremendous faith. When you look in the mirror, do you see mistakes? Things you wished you could change? When you look in the mirror, you might not like what you see. I mean, you might see someone too old to do anything for God. Someone too young to do anything for God. Too big, too small. Don't like the way you look. Maybe you see somebody undereducated. God can't use me. Unexperienced. Not worthy. Maybe you see a coward. I want you to know something. Listen to me. No matter what you see, God sees potential. God sees who he created you to be. It is amazing to me that God does not see what we see. God does not see what others see in us. Now, here's a crazy thing. In Gideon seen a coward. Others seen a coward. God's seen a mighty man of faith. Others might even tell you that you're not worthy. Others might even tell you that there's no way you can do anything for God because look at your past. I know you. I know what you've done. I know who you are. I know where you're at. I've been there. We've all been there. Who do you think you are? But it's amazing and I think awesome that God doesn't see what others see either. God sees us for who we truly were meant to be. And sometimes, I want y'all to listen to me, when we feel like we're going to break out of the box, we're going to do what God wants us to do. I'm going to explode out here. I'm going to do it. You know who is usually the ones that are knocking us back down? Our family and our friends. And yes, absolutely, our church family. Your family will be the first one to tell you, you can't do that. You can't go there. What? God's calling you to do what? Go overseas? No way. He's calling you to go to this town? No way. This school? No way. I'm just going to tell you right now. I had a young man come to me a few years ago and say, Brother Rob. Well, actually, no, let's don't even say, well, yeah, he said, Brother Rob. He said, I feel like God wants me to be a youth pastor. I was like, man, that's awesome. Let's pray about this. Let's start looking into this. Let's start preparing. Let's just, and his mama came to me about a week later, and she walks up and she goes, and I've told this story before. It is so true. And it's so sad. She walks up to me and she goes, do you want to know what he did at dinner the other night? I was like, yeah, sure. He stood up, tapped his glass with his spoon and said, I just want to announce that God's calling me into the ministry. I'm so excited. I said, well, that's awesome. No, it isn't. You know how much people in the ministry get paid? And this is exactly what she said to me. He can't survive on that. I'm standing there going, really? That's her exact words. She said, you've got to do something to talk this nonsense out of his head. He's going down to our corner at our neighborhood and talking to other kids. He's like a little preacher down there. You've got to stop him from doing this. That's what she told me. They quit going to church. Several years ago. Young man's not in church no more. The young man has declared to his mom and daddy he's gay. Sometimes it's our family that beats us down the worst. Here's a neat thing. Fun fact. The Midianites, the locusts that came in and beat the Israelites down, it was their cousins. The Midianites were the Israelites' cousins. But we're going to beat you down. People get envious when they see you doing something for God and they're not doing something for God. They get bitter. Oh, we're back to Cain and Abel again. Yeah. Awesome thing. I'm going way off this. Awesome thing. Okay. I learned a little something here not too long ago. Crabs. Little seawater crabs. You know, if you go buy a crab aquarium does not have a top on it. You know why? Because if you buy crabs, you buy more than one. They like to be together. But it does not have a top on it because if one crab starts to crawl up to get out, the other crabs will grab him and pull him back down. Every one of the crabs can escape, but none of the crabs will ever let any of the other crabs escape. That's where the saying "you're crabby" comes from. I know a lot of crabby Christians that'll pull you down in a heartbeat. I'm not looking at you. That's where crab. Don't be a crab comes from because you're envious, you're bitter, and you love to talk bad about everybody else. You're crabby. Matter of fact, the saying comes from crabs in a barrel. I looked this up. This is weird. I've never heard it. Crabs in a barrel, because crabs cannot escape out of the barrel or the bucket again because each one of them will pull each other down. None of them will ever escape. Crazy. You a crabby Christian? I hope not. Crabs. How do we pull each other down? Oh, gossip? Ooh, church gossip is the worst gossip. That's a sin, folks. That's a sin. Gossip. I don't ever say anything about my brethren that isn't true, because I heard it from somebody that said it was true. Yeah, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to this church. Don't be saying stuff about other people that you heard from someone else. You old crabby Christian, I'm telling you right now. Ooh, man, Brother Rob, he went from a history lesson to a pointing at your fingers. Hey, if the shell fits, wear it. Somebody write that down. I will not be able to say that again. I don't even know where I'm at. Let's skip to page 20. Okay. I can't get off this, guys. I can't get off this. Somebody in here doing something for God. Somebody in here, their ministry might be going one way or another. You know, Paul tells us in 2 Corinthians that we, the body, are supposed to, anything we say or do is supposed to build up the entire body, not tear down the entire body. Somebody starts climbing out, don't lift up to pull them down. Don't be talking about them. Don't be slamming them. Don't be telling them, you can't do that. No, You know, I know you feel like God wants you to do it, but that's just plumb ignorant. Think about this. Don't be doing that. Don't lift up to pull them down. Lift up to give them a hand up. Help them. You know something? We all have a purpose. And maybe your purpose is to lift other people up instead of knocking them down. Maybe that's your purpose. Maybe instead of complaining about something going on, maybe you should hit your knees and pray about where you can help or what you can do. Maybe you're actually the Gideon. Or maybe even worse than that, you're the enemy. You're the Midianite. You just want to come Father, I come before you right now. And as I said, I'm beat up. I need to be a Gideon. I pray that, Father, if there's somebody in here today that, wow, I look at my life. I pray that we all look at ourself right now. And if we see somebody that's just grumpy and crabby, if we see somebody that's bitter, that's envious, if we see somebody that we don't like, I don't care how old or how young, I pray, Father, that we step up and say, God, I'm sorry. I want to change. In Jesus' name.